You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Labor Day. We are celebrating a Michigan win. At least y'all are. I mean, I guess I am too because y'all are happy. I like a happy Michigan fan base. I like it. I appreciate it. I love it. Life is so much better for everyone involved. You know, wars end. The sky is bluer, the grass is greener. All of those things when Michigan has won a game, and obviously it could go much worse. Washington didn't win a game. Anyway, Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And obviously we're going to spend today recapping the game, but we'll start with the big news. Obviously, it's been long known. It's been known for 8 hours now, more so than. But Ronnie Bell is out for the season, which is such a huge blow for so many reasons. I really felt like we were seeing, like you guys have heard me say multiple times, that to me, Ronnie Bell is another Chris Olave that just didn't have the touchdowns. You know, he had the yards, but didn't have the touchdowns. Similar type of receiver. I was talking to a colleague about it. He's like, well, he's not as smooth as Chris Olave. Okay, fair. But very similar, right? You count on them to find a way to get open and then get tons of yards after catch. And I felt like what we were seeing in person on Saturday from Ronnie Bell really felt like we were starting to see it come to fruition, right? Because just imagine if he would have had that one-handed catch, if that would have counted. It's so annoying. That should have counted, right? There should be like a clause where it's like if someone makes an incredible play, that like all penalty, like you can throw like a challenge flag and say whatever penalties that we may have had, those don't count. But I mean, obviously you can't do that because then you'd just be, but nonetheless, it's really wish that we could have that we would get to see him more this season, because it really felt like he was doing something special. Before Blake Corum was evidently doing something special, which he obviously was, it felt like Ronnie Bell was doing something special. Just had that feel. Like he had turned things up a notch. Maybe I'm being wistful because he's lost for the season, but it just sucks, especially for the sake of that he's a guy who's a team captain, voted on by his teammates. He has worked so hard to get to this spot. He's been unheralded. He gets hated on. I at least like seeing that there's so many people who are upset about him being out, because 2 years ago, that's not how people, even though he was the leading receiver for Michigan, it was like, yeah, we've got Nico and Donovan, who cares, right? We don't care about Ronnie. But he led the team in receptions and yards and all of that stuff. So it's been great seeing him get his due, but it sucks that it's at this is the cost of it, right? So very unfortunate. Michigan unfortunately has to move on for now. I would imagine Ronnie will be back for another year. Because I think he has something to prove, and it just seems like he's the type of guy who would come back another year. You want to test that ACL. I think he would have been a draft pick anyway, but I think he needs that next year to really prove it, because I think he can also be a high-end draft pick. I think he has a lot of stuff going for him. But Michigan's got a lot of talent in the wide receiver room. He's the one receiver I wouldn't have wanted to lose personally. I know a lot of people would probably pick Cornelius Johnson, but Ronnie Bell would be my pick. But I mean, because you do have Cornelius Johnson. We got to see Dalen Baldwin showcase his ability. I also, by virtue of a incredible throw cross field by J.J. McCarthy. AJ Henning is my candidate, though. I think Mike Sainristil is probably going to step up a bit, but AJ Henning, I mean, you saw it on the jet sweep. He's another guy to me. Shifty, can get open. can do the speed and space thing. I'm really excited to see how wow. There's so many different names. There's AJ, JJ, DJ, RJ. It's just there's a first initial and J all across the board. Anyway, AJ Henning. I think he would be the one that would be my pick to be that guy, to really step into that role. But I mean, it could be Roman Wilson, right? Like we saw him out there. We saw him in the slot. I took some shots of Cornelius Johnson on the outside and Roman Wilson lined up next to him. So I'm curious to see how they do with the wide receiver group. It is the one group I think that is the most impervious to injury. If you're looking for any kind of silver lining, because running back, yeah, I mean that's a formidable group, but I mean you lose one, it changes the complexion of it pretty quickly. Whereas wide receiver, although it's kind of like you lost two in a way because people were counting on Xavier Worthy being here, so that I think that poses some issues as well. But you want it to be a little bit deeper. At least I know Josh Gaddis does. But I think that I think this is still a position group that can do some very good things even without Ronnie Bell. But still, you feel terrible for the kid, and you hope that he heals quickly. And for a little bit more insight, check out on Wolverines Wire the X's and O's with Jake Butt that I put up this afternoon, because he obviously has been through it, so we talked about it a little bit. So anyway, we are going to continue on. We'll talk about the game now. Less sad, more happy. That's where we're going to get now. But yeah. Do you know that 85% of people who play daily fantasy sports lose? Is it really that surprising? The game is rigged against you. You're playing against thousands of other lineups, not to mention experts, who have more tools and more time. You do not stand a chance. Introducing Stat Heroes, the first ever daily fantasy sportsbook that puts the player in control and winning within reach. Here's how it works. Stat Heroes shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. You name your stakes, winner take all. You have the advantage. Stat Hero is showing you their lineups ahead of time. No one else does that. You are in total control. Stat Hero is daily fantasy sports the way it was meant to be played, one-on-one. Play Stat Hero now and change the odds. Go to stathero.com/lockedon. Sign up for free, and right now you can get 3 times back on your first play. They're giving you a 300% match. That's unheard of. Go to stathero.com/lockedon. stathero.com/lockedon. All right. Let's talk this 47-14 Michigan win. Really impressed with the defense. I thought that it was quietly very, very good. Like I felt by the end of the game, you started feeling like this has been pretty great. But obviously early on, I feel like it was like, because it had that feeling of, well, here we go again after the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on David Ajabo, and then they just marched right down the field and scored. And Ladarius Jefferson, you can't get the Sparty, or you can't take the Sparty out of East Lansing, or you can take the Sparty out of East Lansing, however that idiom would go. Tried to Paul Bunyan. Silly stuff. How'd that work out? But nonetheless, I thought that you saw kind of a vintage Michigan defense in the sense of, all right, yeah, you marched down the field. I hope you liked what you got, because that's it. That's all you're going to get. You're not getting any more than that from us. I think that is very welcome. I know it's Western Michigan. Don Brown probably still would have annihilated Western Michigan similarly. But based off of how things went last year, the fact that Michigan struggled against Rutgers. I know Rutgers is very improved. We saw that their game against Temple. I thought they were going to beat Temple. I didn't think they were going to annihilate them. Nonetheless, Michigan was struggling against teams with barely a pulse, and Western Michigan has more of a pulse than I think people are giving them credit for. I'm not saying they are incredible. They are not the Buffalo of their conference, right? I mean, Buffalo is the Buffalo of their conference, but I think that Western Michigan has the propensity to be a very good team in the group of 5 level. I don't know their schedule offhand, but I'm sure that they, when it comes to the MAC schedule, they'll be just fine, right? They'll be a bowl game in their future. But you got to play against the teams that you play against, and Michigan won the battle in week 1. They did a great job against the team that they were lined up against. So I think that the defense really particularly, they looked really good. And I think that despite the fact that they did not get the pressure, I mean, they were getting close to getting pressure. Every team seems to still, Washington's still doing what other teams did in the sense of, like, get rid of the ball quickly against Michigan. But the difference partially is Michigan's back end held up its end of the bargain. I was really impressed with both Vincent Gray and Jamon Green. I thought they both played really well. So clearly, we saw just a little bit of DJ Turner, but it clearly was more of the others. So I just think it went really well. Defensively, offensively, of course. I mean, it doesn't get much better than running 300-something yards. I haven't seen this, but I've been told that there are people who are upset that they just ran the ball a bunch of times and didn't throw the ball. What do you want? If that's your complaint, the blowout win wasn't exciting enough for you? And they're playing Western Michigan, right? People were starting to talk about this game going into it very similar to the way that they were talking about it in 2009 and 2011. Western Michigan, it's no slouch, right? Maybe Michigan could maybe lose this one. They might be the better team in Michigan. Remember, was it Barrett Sallee, Tom Kercheval, who said that Michigan State's the best team in the best program in the state the last 4 or 5 years, and if not them, maybe Western Michigan. So I don't know. I just think it bodes well that Michigan did what it was supposed to do against a team that certainly could be dangerous against other teams in this conference. Do you think Western Michigan would have gotten blown out by Nebraska right now? Probably not. But offensively, nonetheless, great stuff from the run game. Blake Corum, I've been saying for how long, I'm not mentioning Blake Corum, and that feels like a mistake. Talking too much about Hassan, I'm talking too much about Donovan Edwards, and it feels like a mistake that I'm not talking about Blake Corum. But in fairness, Blake Corum had done nothing to this point. And now we finally see what he looked like in his season opener in 2019 for St. Francis Academy, where he's just running wild. The St. Francis kids had a pretty good game because not only did he have a good game, I was impressed with Nakai Hill-Green. I thought he did very good on the defensive side of the ball. Looks the part, man. But, okay, back to the run game. I mean, how incredible when you've got that many yards rushing, right? Looking at the stats here, I mean, they had 10 ball carriers technically. J.J. McCarthy's sack of 16 yards, or it's not really, threw the ball backwards, counted as a sack. But doesn't really count. But, you just look at these net yards. 111 from Blake Corum on 14 carries. 70 from Hassan Haskins on 13 carries. You have the 174-yarder from A.J. Henning. Roman Wilson with the 43-yarder. Donovan Edwards on the low end. 6 carries, 27 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Haskins just over 5. Corum at almost 8 at 7.9. They average 7.8 as a team when you account for sacks. And, actually 8 ball carriers because they put Luke Schoonmaker as a ball carrier since he recovered that fumble. Whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Good all around. 335 net yards on the ground. But to those some people, but at what costs? 131. Oh, sorry, that's 131 yards after catch. 216 yards passed. Listen, I said I wanted to see 500 yards. I said I wanted 300 yards passing, 200 yards rushing. I thought that I was being very generous to say I wanted 200 yards rushing. The fact that they got 335 sack-adjusted yards, I mean, yes, I will take that 1,000 times. Do I want to see a more prolific passing attack? Eventually, yes, because that's what modern college football is. But hey, if we'll see how well this rushing attack does against Washington, because Washington, there's one thing that they are really, really good at. Well, okay, 2 things. Deep, they comprise both sides of defense. They're good at stopping the run, and they're good at stopping the pass. They are a very good defense. So, if Michigan can do either thing, and the thing is, they're going to be on high alert for the run now because of what Michigan just did, that might give you the opportunity to pass. So, I don't know. I just think it's a quality situation. And this assumes that Michigan moves forward with the idea that it cannot do what it did last year. I mean, that's what I asked Brad Hawkins about today, and that became a topic after that. But it's like, how do you feel that last year's deal, the fact that you felt, you're feeling yourselves out coming out of Minnesota, and then you go and you lose to Michigan State, who looked bad. How much does that inform you? And it is kind of back to that, like, we got to treat every game by game, Yeah, Ohio State's one thing, but the good news is with Washington in particular, they've been preparing for them, Jim Harbaugh said, throughout the offseason. So, but they're going to have their backs against the wall. All right, let's continue on. More thoughts coming up momentarily, but before we do, it's that time of year again. Football is actually happening. And a lot of people are really excited all of a sudden. It's amazing. I love it. Went from maybe I'll tune in to super excited. As always, betonline.ag is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all of the updated odds, props, and contests, including the $500,000 NFL Mega Contest and the $200,000 NFL Survivor Contest, open now at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag to use your mobile device. Sign up today. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Receive your 100% welcome bonus. Be sure to take advantage of their opening day. Super promo equals make a bet next Thursday on the September 9th season opener between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Dallas Cowboys. And if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25. BetOnline.ag is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, from football, basketball, boxing, right to horse racing. Don't wait. Take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Now, y'all know I obviously also got to tell you a little something about Built Bar. Y'all know how much I love Built Bar. Had an email from a loyal listener, which I appreciate, by the way. And it wasn't about this, but he did mention that I make him want to buy Built Bars, even though it's not the type of thing that he eats. I know why that probably is, because I actually believe in this product so much. I had a Built Bar last night. I'm not going to lie. I haven't been feeling well. I'm allergic to field turf, if you didn't know, and I'm on the field for games. That requires some downtime. But last night, my sustenance was Built Bar because I wanted something delicious because I wasn't feeling well. So I reached for the thing that I knew was going to make me happy inside of my head. And that was the peanut butter brownie Built Bar. If you don't know what a Built Bar is, it's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It has high protein, low calorie, low carb. It is perfect in that regard. I am telling you, they are delicious. They are amazing. Go to built.com, put in promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your next order. Built.com, LOCKED15. Note that I do not use a script for Built Bar because I do not need to, because it's just I'm speaking from the heart. So there you go. All right. Couple more minutes here. Apologies for the late podcast. I know we promised mornings. Michigan moved up because of Labor Day. Moved up the press conference to 11. I had to get in X's and O's with Jake Butt because I was under the weather yesterday. I couldn't go yesterday, so we did it this morning and got things all out of whack. But we're doing it now. However, I do want to watch the one football game that's on. So sad that Notre Dame didn't lose. This was really all apologies to Mike McCray out there and Adam Shibley, but no, I want Notre Dame to lose, and I like Florida State. I didn't grow up liking Florida State, but I have some weird affinity for schools that weren't necessarily in the ACC at the time, which doesn't include Florida State, but some of those Florida schools, not Florida, but like I love Miami. And I love Florida State as I think about just being like in the like late 80s, early 90s, like tuning into one of those games when it was like crisp fall here. And, you know, you just look at those, you look in like Tallahassee and it's like overcast, but it's like humid overcast and just looks, you can see the humidity through the air and you see Chief Osceola throw this flaming spear into the ground. It's the pageantry, you know, I don't know. I love it. The cocaine cowboys era of Florida. You know, just what Florida was. It just everything looked like we'll just go back and watch the U documentaries. Okay, I'm digressing way too much. I'm getting very wistful here. Anyhow. So there's a lot to like about what came out of this Michigan football team. I thought the offensive line was incredible. Andrew Vistardis made PFF's Team of the Week. I'm sure we'll talk to when we have them this week. I'm sure we'll talk to Treacher Sikama about what they saw out of Vistardis. But I mean, saw a lot of praise for him as well out there. I really like the fact that the offensive line's come together. It does seem like it could be a strength that they're about to get a test, though, against Washington. No Vita Vea out there or anything, but still. Lot to like about the offensive line, a lot to like about, just across the board. Defensive line, I thought, did good. Like I said, they weren't quite getting home, but they were impacting the game. The coverage was very good. I thought the linebackers did their job quite nicely as well. Really, there's nothing I can sit there and look at and say that might be a problem at the moment. Not at the moment. So, I mean, I think that's the important thing is to take things in perspective, recognize that was the case last year too. Well, not necessarily fully, because after the Minnesota game, it was like, secondary might not be great. Secondary was great this time, so you feel good about that. I thought all 5 guys you saw out there were pretty good. So we'll see. We'll know a lot more this next week. If Michigan can get past Washington, and I do have my skepticism strictly based off of knowing what happened last year. I picked Michigan to beat Washington. I probably will continue to pick Michigan to beat Washington. I think it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a thrilling game. but it has the potential to be more than that if Michigan comes out and plays the way it did this last week. Start fast, be smart, do your thing, and yeah. And I'm looking on YouTube. Someone just commented, "It's Mustard Michigan for crying out loud." Did you want Michigan to beat to do a good job beating Ohio State this week? Oh, I love it when people say that. What you want them to play another team that's not on the schedule? You could only listen if they looked terrible. If they looked terrible, then guess what? People would be pissed. You got to look good against the team you're supposed to look good against. I know you're not. Person probably doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm just reacting to the notifications as they come in. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't know for sure if we're doing Pro Football Focus tomorrow or Wednesday, so stay tuned on that. It's a weird week because of Labor Day, but nonetheless. All right, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.